Hi. For me, like many people of my generation who grew up as nerdy British teens in the 1980s, a very important part of my youth was one of these. Yes, it's the classic Sinclair ZX Spectrum. And sadly, and this was indeed my original machine, but sadly, all that remains of it now is an empty shell. But in recent months, a company called Retro Games Limited, who you might be familiar with because they've been responsible for releasing a series of hardware emulations of classic machines from the classic computers and consoles from the 1980s and 1970s, have come out with this, which is the Spectrum. And this is an FPGA hardware emulation of the Speccy. And this, the interesting thing about this is it was designed by a guy called Chris Smith. Now, Chris Smith was the person who was responsible for reverse engineering the ZX Spectrum's secret source, which is a chip called the Uncommitted Logic Array, or ULA. And if you're interested in his work on that, I highly recommend his book, which is this, the ZX Spectrum ULA, How to Design a Microcomputer. And this book actually documents his findings in quite a lot of technical detail. You can see it's got a lot of circuit diagrams and schematics in there along with the text. It's quite a technical and in-depth read, but it is very, very fascinating. And if you're interested in the hardware side of the Spectrum, then I thoroughly recommend it if you can get hold of a copy. So why am I telling you all this? It is not as a prelude to a review of the Spectrum. If you want that, there are a ton of them on YouTube already. But what it is getting this has kind of inspired me to start a little side project, which is thinking about what did it actually take back in the day to create an arcade style game for this thing. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And I hope that sounds like an interesting journey that you might like to join me on. But of course, to do that, we need to start with a game design. So let's have a look at that. So I am a big fan of paper prototyping because I think it's a good and quick way to kind of test out some early ideas and test out some mechanics and see how well they are going to work. And also, it's a nice easy way for me to demonstrate to you the design. Now, let me confess that this is going to be a very, very derivative design that is going to draw elements from lots of different coin ops from the 1970s and 1980s. So don't expect anything spectacular here, because the aim of this little mini-series is an investigation into what it takes from a technical perspective and a programming perspective to create a game like this, rather than being a game design masterclass. And to be perfectly honest, I would be the last person I suggest would be suitable for providing a game design masterclass. So anyway, so here is a very crude representation of the ZX Spectrum screen. Ignore the cross in the middle. I just put that there so the camera had something to focus on. And also use your imagination to imagine that this is a black background rather than white, because this will be a space set shoot 'em up. And of course, like all good shoot 'em ups, we'll start with the player ship, which has some big ass engines on the back and a laser cannon of some sort on the front. And by now you're no doubt getting some inclination as to the extent of my art skills, or lack of. So anyway, the ship, of course, will be able to move around. It will be confined to the sort of bottom section of the screen, so that will move around under player control. Now also on the screen will be some asteroids, and these asteroids will kind of zoom around in random directions, and we'll have a wraparound screen, so when they go off at the bottom they'll come back on at the top, or the same with the sides. If they go off to the side they'll come back on at the other side. Now obviously these asteroids, if they collide with the player ship, kablooey, that's the end of you. So you will need to be avoiding these things as they're moving around. But they also might collide with each other. And when they do that, rather than them breaking apart sort of a la asteroids, what will happen is that they will change colour. So for example, you know, this blue one, when it collides with the pink one here, or magenta, whatever you like to call it, might change, for example, to a green one. And as they go on colliding, they'll cycle through all of the different colours, and eventually they will become red. Red for warning, of course. And when they get to the red stage, when they next collide, then rather than changing colour, the asteroid will break open and will reveal a little alien guy. And your little alien guy will then start moving around the screen, this time not in straight lines but in kind of random directions, dancing around. And of course, like all alien guys are wont to do, he will occasionally drop bombs and try and hit your ship. And once again, if a bomb hits your ship, or if the alien hits your ship for that matter, kablooey, that's the end of you again. So now you're, as well as dodging the remaining asteroids, you're dodging bombs and you're dodging the aliens. But of course you are not defenseless, so you also have your laser cannon, so you can fire shots and try and destroy the aliens. And then that's the end of that alien. But you can also shoot at the asteroids, and when you hit an asteroid it will instantly break open and create an alien. Now you might be thinking, well, why on earth would you want to do that? Because you're basically changing something that is just an obstacle you need to avoid into something that is not only an obstacle but is dancing around shooting at you. So why would you want to do it? Well, here's the reason, okay? If you allow the asteroids to go through their normal course until they get red and then they break open to create an alien, the alien that they create will be the toughest alien. It will be the one that moves fastest, that drops most bombs, and whose bombs are more accurate. Whereas if you were to shoot an asteroid in one of the earlier colour stages, so let's say it's a blue asteroid, and you shoot this one, so what will then happen is when this breaks open, it will produce a blue alien. And so the aliens that come from the earlier colour stages will actually be weaker. They will be slower, they will drop far fewer bombs, and their bombs will be a lot less accurate. So it's actually in your interest to try and clear the asteroids to get less powerful aliens that you can dispatch more easily, rather than waiting until you've got a whole screen full of really high powered aliens that are much more likely to get you before you get them. So that's the basic game. Now, in terms of progression, obviously what we can do on later levels is have more asteroids and potentially have some of them starting at later colour stages, so that you get aliens more quickly. But also, just to mix things up a bit, we might introduce some obstacles. So for example, like these space mines. So these space mines will not only be another obstacle for you to avoid, but they will also be another thing that the asteroids can bounce off of to progress their colour sequence a bit more quickly. Now, every shoot 'em up does of course need a great boss stage. So the boss stage here will be a big ass alien
that is shrouded in a kind of asteroid ring, a ring of rock, which is protecting the alien on the inside. And this alien with its rock shroud is going to kind of move around the screen, trying to collide with you initially. So you will obviously have to get out of the way of this alien moving around. Now your job is to shoot and try and break through the rock shield on the underside. And eventually, of course, once you've chipped away at it enough, you will do that. So you will have a situation like this. Now, rather than it being a simple case now of you just shooting up the middle to destroy the alien, no, we're not going to make things in life that easy for you. So what's going to happen at this point is that the alien, as soon as you've created the gap up middle, is going to start dropping missiles down towards you. So to get that shot in to destroy the alien, you are going to have to time things right between the missiles coming down from the alien to get in under the gap, shoot the alien, and kablooey, that's the end of the big ass boss alien. Now, of course, in terms of boss alien progressions, there are a couple of things we can do. One is we could potentially make this shield a little bit thicker, but my inclination is, because obviously my inclination is not to go down that route, because the bigger we make this, the more data we've got to move around the screen and the slower things will get. So my inclination will be to actually make each segment of this rock go through, maybe start with a different colour, and then again you'll have to cycle through the different colours. So you might have to hit each section multiple times to finally break it away. So on later aliens it will be a lot harder to, and it will take you longer to break through the bottom of that rock. Now, one thing that might have occurred to you as something that would be an interesting thing to do would be for this rock shell to rotate, because then of course you've got to wait for the bit that you've been chipping away at to kind of come back round, and that would be very interesting. And there are several games that from that era that did use that sort of mechanic. I'm not going to go there initially, and I tell you for why, because I think that the processing power needed to do that well, to have all of this rotating, might just be a little bit too much. So I'm going to keep that idea on a back burner. I will start by implementing the basic version where it's static and you just shoot through the bottom. And depending on how well we get on with that, I might have a look then at whether the rotating idea is feasible. So there you go, that's the game design. As I said, it's very, very derivative. You will have seen the various ideas from it in lots of other games, so I'm not making any claims to originality, but it is about the right sort of level for a game of this era.
Okay, so I have my game design, so now I need to start in on the really hard part, which is the implementation. But I have a question that I want to pose first, which is, would it actually be possible to realize this design with the built-in ZX Spectrum Basic? Now, spoiler alert, the answer is going to be a resounding no. But I don't want you to just take my word for that. So I'm going to demonstrate to you exactly why the answer is no by trying to do it. So please join me in the next episode to see me do that.